Hello, I'm Bill O'Donnell, and welcome to another program on spirituality. Today, I'm excited because I have two of my dearest friends who've been a big influence on my life. Brother Brian Dybowski from St. Michael's High and the Institute for Spirituality, and Teresita Scully, the first director of the Institute for Spirituality. And I've asked him to come in to talk about the origins. We're coming up on 30 years of programming, and we did some stuff before that. So it's a time to reflect back on how the Institute for Spirituality got started. So welcome, Brian and Terry. It's
Thank you,
great to
Bill.
have you.
Good to be with you.
In a previous program with Teresita, we got to get to know her better and the rest of it. She came to visit from Nogales, where she teaches theology to students, high school students down there. And Brother Brian's been teaching at the College of Santa Fe forever, and now he's running full-time the Institute for Spirituality. And also, you're also teaching in Albuquerque, aren't you?
Right, for Lewis University.
That's right. That's great. So the point of the story today is we go back, way back to those days, to the beginning and before the Institute for Spirituality. But I was curious how you two met, because I think I met you through her, but I don't remember how you two guys met initially. Do you remember either of you?
Well, that was through her uncle.
Yes.
Right, you want to tell them how that worked?
Oh.
Well, I have an uncle, now deceased, but Brother Leo Burkhardt, who has written stories and done films and so on the founder of the LaSallian Brothers, Saint Jean Baptiste de La Salle. And he happened to be in town at a moment when I was trying to find a sponsor for a conference that we wanted to give on the occult, because I'd come to the conclusion that we really needed to get some word out there. There were too many people who were scared silly of the devil and thought the devil had all these kinds of powers and so forth. And so to try and get things straightened out, that this is not true, and it's not a healthy way to behave. And I'd lost the sponsorship I had at the college with the then campus minister. And I was crying on my uncle's shoulder about this, and he says, well, let's just go talk to the brothers. The brothers will support you. And so he brought me to meet Brother Brian, Brother George, and Brother Brian says, oh, there's no problem with this whatsoever. We'll just take care of it. We'll just do this. And it turned out to be so important then that we saw we needed to carry on and even do different things.
Okay. That was a precursor to CCI, is that correct?
No, that was the beginning.
That
of
was the
CCI.
beginning of the Center for Christian Information on the Occult. Okay. What is your recollection of that period?
Well, that was a period when so many people needed what Teresita had got started because they were confused. They had next to nothing to go on. Aside from what they saw on TV, they had no contact with anything. And this was a little reality contact that helped them, so that some of the people who were there said, gee, we need to follow up on this, we need to do more. And the doing more gave birth to the Spirituality Institute.
That's right, that's right. Well, it certainly was an eye-opener for me because I hadn't had much experience with it, and I had, in previous conversations, Teresita and we had met through a health organization that we got started to provide programming for the Department of Corrections after the big riot, and then she arranged for me to go to the monastery where the Lord really took over, and I became a Benedictine postulate. But then in coming out, that's when I got to meet you, and we had that work together. And the Institute for Spirituality came about. And what was the need at the time? If you recall, there were hardly any programming going on at the Definite Parish at the time. I don't think we mentioned in the previous conversation that you were the Director of Religious Ed at St. Francis Cathedral at that time, weren't you? Or shortly, at somewhere around that time.
Yeah, about the same time, they lost their Director of Catechumenate. And so I was asked to work on being Director of Catechumenate, and that put me in contact with a lot of other people, and I could see how great the need was for them to understand just the basics of faith and what strange ideas they had about Christ. So we determined in our council that it was best for us to have the Institute for Spirituality with a good summer program as well as conferences once a month during the year, just to do basic topics on spirituality. We did a whole big thing on mysticism because so many people were getting caught up in these false forms of mysticism and New Age channeling and so forth. So we did a lot of basic stuff along those lines, but we even had times we would deliberately have dialogues with different groups, and we invited the Wiccans for a dialogue. We had quite a night of dialogue with the I don't believe there were any males there, but there were a lot of female Wiccan practitioners there, and we had intense discussions. We had Native Americans there, and we had intense discussions and talk about the Native American traditions and various understandings with them compared to Catholicism. So we just felt that there had become a whole huge vacuum, and people into it was rushing all of these kinds of gurus who were really taking advantage of people because in many instances they themselves did not practice the discipline of the religious tradition that they purported to represent. They didn't themselves practice it. And so we just felt it was time to say, here's some authentic ways to compare things, to look at them, to discern them, and get some sense of where you are.
That's true, because at that time, and had been for quite a while, there was so much in the media, so much on television. The internet was just beginning to get going, I think, or shortly thereafter. So people were being exposed to all these different things of excitement or interest, but they didn't necessarily lead you in the right direction. And you've been aware of this for a long time, hadn't you, brother? With your teachings, you taught at high school and in college. What was your experience at that time? What was the need that you saw that we were going to fill?
Well, what the people needed was something that was genuine, something that was true, something that really spoke to the heart through and through. See, there were a lot of things that spoke to the surface and bounced off. And there was all kind of titillation, but there was no satisfaction. So in trying to get what we wanted them to know, we were trying to provide for them the kind of experience that Jesus brought. Now, we're poor imitators of Jesus, right? We invoked the Spirit. We met quite a few times. Among the people who was meeting with us, Brother George suggested that what the people need is a reorientation. They need a novitiate. Now, they can't go as we could go for a year or for 2 years for a novitiate. So how about a month? So that was his idea, and we planned things around that. It would give these people an opportunity to say, stop the surface, let's get beneath, and let's devote a month to it.
Yeah. And you were even able to get the Archbishop at the time to come and teach for us, and the rest of the teachers were all very first rate. Do you remember any of those people besides Archbishop Sanchez who came and taught that? Many of whom have gone on to their reward. That was almost 30 years ago.
Well, sure, yeah.
We had Father Terence Klein for 1 year. He did a whole series on the council and the different documents of the council and spirituality in that regard. Brother Brian did something on John of the Cross, which was, again, tremendously important. I mean, some of the problem we had was also with Catholics, because Catholics were trying to imitate this New Age phenomenon of channeling various beings, and so we had at least 3 different people in town simultaneously claiming to channel Our Lady. And so we really needed some strong doctrine about what are these kinds of revelations, how can they be trusted or not trusted, and so Brother Brian did a thing on John of the Cross too. So we needed those, get back to those kinds of basics.
I remember there was other programs that went on. So then we moved from a 1-month program to the next year, 5 separate weeks. We found that was going to be a better circumstance because people couldn't take a month typically, but if they could get a week in, and then they would choose a week to do, as I recall. Is that
Right. Yes, you see, we had a lot of interaction with the people who were there, and remember that a lady from the southern part of the state, from Las Cruces, pointed out to us most people didn't have a month. That's why there were so many religious who came to this thing, right? And that they had a 2-week vacation. So if we could package it within a week, then we could attract folks. And surely it worked that way. The first time we had 19 people, which was wonderful, for the whole month. The second time that we did it for a week, we had 91 people who would attend, say, a week, right? And that way we counted up the individuals, got 91. That was much more effective.
Another big surprise we had was that at the very first session, a number of Protestant ministers, including Jay Spoonheim, showed up. And they were so enthused about this and so excited about it. And it was as a result of that, then you invited Father Falardo to come and talk, and then Father Falardo asked me to be on the ecumenical community conference for the Archdiocese. So it very quickly spread even beyond us, and there were times when we had Methodists and Lutherans and Presbyterians, and then we did a Jewish Catholic dialogue. We had members of the Jewish community involved also. So it created a nice sense of ferment within the community.
Right.
And I think that year we moved to the seminary, and but that's right, Reverend Jay Spoonheim did suggest that we had more, and then now Reverend Sarah Buxton Smith, who was discerning her call to become an Episcopal priest, was there, and as a result of it we put it, and then we did a whole week of just ecumenical studies, and I was amazed at how almost tense people were that first day. They hadn't been invited to anything Catholic before, but by the end of the week, it was almost like a whole new community had been established. It was an incredibly rich sharing, as I recall. Those courses created community within a week. And some of the other instructors, I mean, I don't. We should have brought a whole list. There's so many that over the 30 years, how many people actually came through there. And then we even had a master's program that came up. Can you speak about that for a time that you established?
Right, yes, it was this very same lady from Las Cruces.
Judith Montes.
Judy Montes, right, yeah. And she wanted to cash in on these things academically, right, and to earn a master's degree in spirituality. So we asked various people to do that. Finally, St. Mary's of San Antonio agreed to do that, and we had a whole series of those classes. But they became very intensely academic, so that didn't have a wide appeal. So that was just a small group, right? Never more than about a dozen people.
While the other group was going on
Right.
simultaneously.
The rest continued.
Yeah. But you also went through that program, didn't you?
Right, and I got a master's out of it, and they were altogether 7 people who got master's degrees.
And that was over 2 or 3 summers, do you recall?
Well, there were 3 summers in Santa Fe, and then we found out from St. Mary's that they were running into a problem. They were not supposed to operate outside the state of Texas, so they were running into state laws that prohibited them to continue.
So you had to finish up there? Go ahead.
Many things have changed in the academic field. We were sort of pioneers on the edge of this with, now it's very common. Most of your big universities and colleges will offer online degrees in various places, but we were sort of pushing the envelope on that.
Yeah.
In a short break for an announcement, it just occurred to me that unfortunately some years ago, Brother Brian's list was absconded from his email carrier. So if any of you watching this ever came to the Institute for Spirituality or were in the master's program with us, please contact us. Our website is www.sfis.org, Santa Fe Institute for Spirituality, and get in touch with us because we're trying to have a chance to invite everybody back to the 30th anniversary for this program. So if you're just seeing this somewhere, either on television or the internet, please get in touch with us through the website, sfis.org, and give us your current address. We'd love to be in touch with you. I hope I got that right.
For sure, and there's so many people who have good memories of this.
Yes.
You know, at the end of the week, they would say, "Oh, I hate to go," and they very much enjoyed all of this. So, yeah, we can reestablish contact because somebody hacked my system and the company closed down my whole list.
I think the evil one was never in favor of our operating. That's for sure.
Right.
Another great memory
please.
I have is the week we did on Native American spirituality, and we went up to the campus at the then St. Catherine's and even had a powwow, if you recall, and had some wonderful Native American speakers. I mean, that was very, very powerful, I think, and very beautiful also.
So that was the greatest outpouring of the Spirit. We've never had so many people. For that closing Mass, there were 350 people. So this was just a magnificent thing. Many of the people who had been students at St. Kate's said, "Brother, come, I want to show you. This is the dorm I was in, you know, when I was in the 3rd grade. And then after the 8th grade, I was in this dorm and for high school." And they were just so happy to be back where they had so many wonderful memories of the nuns who took such good care of them.
What we're talking about now, if this escapes you, St. Catherine's Indian School, established by Catherine Drexel, now St. Catherine Drexel. It was her very first Indian school. I think she started even before she became a nun to establish the Blessed Sacrament Sisters here in Santa Fe, and it was established back in 1887.
Yeah.
And it was extraordinary. And by the way, we have footage of that Mass with Father John Haskell, who was Ojibwe Indian, I think, an authentic pipe carrier Roman Catholic priest, and came and gave that Mass. So that is currently up on YouTube, I believe, that particular Mass. I'm glad you reminded me
That
of
was a wonderful high point, I think,
Yeah.
for us, and showed that we were trying to reach out and show Catholicism in the context of the many different cultures that it embraces.
And of course, we had participation by the Blessed Sacrament Sisters. It wasn't just us. There was a lot of other
Oh yes, Sister
members.
Marguerite was a very
Bartz,
important part.
who unfortunately later was killed in her ministry with the Native Americans out in Arizona. But a number of her confreres came through and taught for us. And we also still have some footage of Pedro Rivera Ortega that I remember some conflict or timing actually encouraged us to do more. So we added our Spanish American week as well. So it's funny how the things change. You know, you take one step this way, all of a sudden the Lord has taken you the other way, and it always seems to work out.
Well, the wonderful thing that Pedro did was all those tours of the little churches in northern
Yes.
Mexico. It was just getting the sense of the history of the faith in this holy ground.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah, we still have that footage yet to be, hopefully the current media committee on the Institute will be able to do something with that and make it available. But you're right, they were extraordinary.
And we had Franciscans involved. One year we had the charismatic Franciscan who gave a number of talks, and we were up at the seminary, so there was also Franciscan participation.
A couple of different guys.
Yeah.
And then we also had different priests from many orders saying Mass for us, because we always would end our morning sessions typically with Mass at the college.
And I think, wasn't it the second year, Brother Brian, that we had Father Woods, the Dominican? Your
He was
friend?
there the first year.
First year.
Right, to get us started.
Yeah.
And it was his opinion that they had just closed down in the summer of '85 their spiritual institute in Chicago. And they said, we were carrying on the work. So he came 3 years in a row. So he was there the second year also. And then he came for our 25th anniversary.
That's right.
Right, so we had a wonderful connection with that Dominican.
Yeah. And I remember before, even with CCI, I think Father Richard Rohr gave a talk at Capshaw Junior High before we even started the Institute.
Yes.
There was something going on. It was a wonderful talk.
Masculine, feminine spirituality. He did that for us. Yeah.
Right.
And some of the Native American masses or other masses that we had at the cathedral, when Father Hogan came and the rest of it, the Priest for Life, so many programs over the years. You probably hadn't even heard about some of these because you
Yes,
left after about 7 years.
I was gone had to get my husband to
To
other
a lower
parts
ground,
of the
yeah,
country.
that's right.
Yeah.
But it's been going on. I mean, what other, we've only got a few minutes left, but is there anything else? We're still in action. So if you, just hearing this, we're talking about the origins of the Santa Fe Institute for Spirituality for the largest part of 25 years at the College of Santa Fe, and then a few years at Immaculate Heart of Mary Seminary in between, and now at St. Michael's High School. But we encourage you to go to that website, sfis.org, and contact us if there are programs that you'd like to see, or if you know more about it, other memories you might have, let us know of those. We'd like to hear from you.
And maybe people have ideas of some new thing that they
right.
would like to see embraced and discussed, and that would be a good thing to do also.
Yeah, very good, very good. The other thing that I've been trying to get Brother Brian to do is lead some nature work. He's better on the trail than he is in the classroom. You can believe that. You can take my word for it. But we have so much beautiful nature around here that actually, at Santa Fe, it's been a real blessing to be here. The city of Holy Faith, nestled in the blood of Christ mountains, are not lost on me. I imagine you miss it, though.
I do, but I'm also very much involved in that where I am in Tucson also. So, and I do a lot of creation spirituality with my students. So they have their own garden, and they've won national awards for it. So it's still very much on my radar.
Okay. Well, in a few minutes left, Brother Brian, what other thoughts do you have, or what would you like to tell those folks at home that maybe haven't even heard of us, and how we can possibly be of help to them in their life?
So far we've been talking about the summer program, and that was the main objective. But we've also started with Saturday evening programs that run almost every Saturday. We're presently doing the Gospel of St. John, as discussed by St. Thomas. So it's his commentary that we're following to do this every Saturday evening at 7 o'clock at the high school, room 111.
Okay. And one of the things you might want to mention is a lot of the texts that Brian has provided for the classes. If you've missed some, he is providing things to bring you up to speed and catch up on what's been missed, so they're very helpful. Terry, any other final thoughts you might have of your time with the Institute for Spirit and helping get it started? You were the first director for first number of years.
Well, it was a wonderful experience for me. I'm deeply and profoundly grateful for it. And I would just encourage people to enrich their spirituality, try and find out more about their faith, move into a deeper understanding of the precious treasures you have. Open that box and examine them and find out what wonderful riches are there.
That's great. Anything else, Brian?
Well, the nice thing is that everybody really wants what this is all about. See, there isn't anyone who would have to go into an unnatural connection with God, right? God is the connection that keeps us going. He created us, He keeps us moving. So this is not something added on. This is not something that takes a great deal of effort. This is something that is like going home.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you guys both for coming and sharing some of this. It really stimulated my memory for a lot of things. So if you just caught this or you want to look at more, please go to the website for the Institute for Spirituality. It's sfis.org. Or there's also other programming on my YouTube site. If you just go Bill O'Donnell on YouTube, you can look at all some of that video is still available there, and we hope you'll get a chance to look at it. So, for behalf of everybody here, our director on this show, Doreen Gallegos, our camera people, Joe and Casey and Raymond, and our people in the background, Bridget and Roseanne, want to thank you all for helping us out, and thank you for coming. My best to you and your family and your community. And stay tuned next week at this time for another program on spirituality.